In the second week of September, the number of weekly reported deaths due to Covid-19 plunged to its lowest since March 2020. World Health Organization chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus cited this last week when he said that the end of the pandemic was now in sight. We have never been in a better position to end the pandemic, the WHO chief told the media during his regular weekly press conference. However, in a word of caution, he also added that the world was not there yet. To date, according to the WHO data, India has seen over 44 million confirmed cases of Covid-19, which have resulted in over 528,000 lives lost. During the course of the pandemic, there were times when India's economy was virtually shuttered due to lockdowns that varied in their strictness. Except for select essential services and activities, shops, eateries, factories, transport services and business establishments all came to standstill for long periods of time, leaving a devastating impact on the economy. Released in April this year, the Reserve Bank of India's report on currency and finance for FY22 said that it would take nearly 15 years for the Indian economy to make up for the losses incurred during the coronavirus pandemic. This projection was arrived at after taking the actual growth rate of -6.6% for FY21 and 8.9% for FY22 into account, along with assuming a growth rate of 7.2% for FY23 and 7.5% beyond that. In monetary terms, the output losses estimated by the report were 19.1 trillion rupees for FY21, 17.1 trillion rupees for FY22, and 16.4 trillion rupees for FY23. The report does not reflect the views of the RBI itself. Instead, it reflects the views of its contributors, who are part of RBI's Department of Economic and Policy Research. Against this backdrop, the answer to whether the end of the COVID-19 pandemic is in sight or not becomes the most crucial determinant for how the Indian economy will fare going ahead. Recent data also points to an improving situation. The 7-day moving average of daily new infections in India has been holding steady in the range of 5,000 to 6,000 in the past 10 days. This is down considerably from the recent high of 19,658 on the 24th of July, whereas in the first week of April, India had been seeing just around 1,000 cases per day. So, is India out of the danger zone?
We are possibly moving towards a closure of the serious element of the pandemic, though the infections will continue periodically. However, we do need to take precautions and we still need to keep a watch because we have seen rises and falls as new variants emerge, particularly from under-vaccinated populations or from individuals with very low level of immunity where the virus can stay long and mutate at leisure. And some of those forms can circulate as more infectious or even more virulent forms. So I believe we need to wait a few more months and see whether, given the seasonal changes in the Northern Hemisphere, whether new variants are likely to emerge and spread, because we have seen these kind of variants emerge, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere in winter and spread elsewhere in the world. But at the moment, it appears that the Omicron family is the most dominant one. It seems destined to stay, and it is not causing serious threats in terms of life-threatening illness.
Well, if by the end is in sight, does it mean that there will be no more cases of COVID-19? Then absolutely the end is not in sight. But does it mean that COVID is less of a public health problem? Yes, absolutely. That is the case. Of course, we need to continue to be watchful to see that new variants that are more dangerous don't emerge. I think what the future should look like is that we need to build the right kind of infrastructure to be able to constantly gather data and to generate new evidence. Then is the evidence generation piece, because the biggest question people have today is which vaccine should I take? When should I take a booster? Now, actually, we have not answered the question of which vaccine is really the best vaccine for short-term protection, for long-term protection. Should I take a combination of vaccines? So that is the evidence that we should be generating now so that future policy for vaccination can be made.
On whether the coming winter is crucial for India to get a measure of the pandemic's direction, Gagandeep Kang said a lot of it is coming from the West, where respiratory infections are particularly bad. And when combined with COVID, there is a sense that public health systems could be overwhelmed. But in India, flu seasons are varied and have smaller peaks, and hence we cannot take the problems of the West and expect to have a similar impact in India. Meanwhile, Indian companies are hiring thousands of temporary workers as the country prepares to celebrate its peak festival season without COVID restrictions for the first time in 3 years. The Confederation of All India Traders, or CAIT, expects sales in this Diwali season to be at least 30% higher than last year. CAIT Secretary General Praveen Khandelwal said the consumer sentiment is very upbeat after 2 years of restrictions, with health experts expecting lower mortality and largely a controlled scenario. Businesses are hopeful that the country has left the COVID-induced lockdowns behind. However, with the threat of new variants emerging and some regions likely to witness a spike, activity may be disrupted in short phases.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.